is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 198. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. He's sitting here Sunday afternoon, beautiful, Austin, Texas, and we have had quite a weekend, my friend. I will apologize off the top here. I'm doing my best. My voice is not in good shape. And that started on Friday night with us going down to see the Spurs play the Bucks. 6th row tickets right across from the bench. Fantastic. Shout out to Tyler for the tickets. We ended up sitting right next to Victor Wembanyama's mother, who I immediately recognized, of course. And she might, by way of Victor Wembanyama, may have gotten me sick because they play the next night. Wemby sits out with an illness, and now I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. So it was a fantastic night. And speaking of basketball, virtual hugs to any Mavericks fans that may be North End listeners. We don't need to make this an whole NBA episode here, E, but what a wild weekend. Great for you and I, because again, like, you're Mr. LeBron, so currently you are employed by the Los Angeles Lakers in terms of your fandom. So I guess now a bigger fan of Slovenia than you ever thought possible.
That's right. Well, let's get Zonnie another extension here. Yeah, man, a fantastic weekend all around. Obviously, I'm in pretty good spirits. Any Mavs fan who wants to come, we'll welcome you. You know, you can come hang out. We got a pool. There's a grotto. Get a beer, whatever you want. Bronny's there. Come on. Yeah, no, that was fantastic sitting next to Victor's mom there. But I'm on board with your theory here. I think it might have been her.
Yeah. Well, and again, by extension, Victor. So I'll take it. Can I keep this like Wemby illness?
You've made a blood oath now.
Yeah, I'll battle through it.
Never washing your hands again now.
Oh, man. We will talk about Austin FC here on today's episode. Just want to remind you all before we get into the nitty-gritty on episode 198 that the best way to support the North End Podcast is by downloading the audio version of all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And typically, you know, you're on Apple, you're on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can usually toggle on auto downloads. That'll let you support the show going forward without having to think about it again. You can go the extra mile, rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, subscribing to the channel also helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins, Nico Harrison. Wash yourself clean in the waters of the North End. And E, before we get into the first big news item, which I know also had you lighting up when that came across, let's talk about our buddies over there at Underdog Fantasy.
The MLS season is almost here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog.
Underdog Fantasy promo code NORTHEND. That was another part of our awesome Friday night down there in San Antonio. You doing well with the Underdog Fantasy. So you sign up there, link in the description on the YouTube video, and promo code NORTHEND get you that deposit bonus and the free pick. So E, not wasting any more time here. Let's get to the first news item. Guilherme Biro is the latest Austin FC player to ink a contract extension with the club. This was some Friday afternoon news right before we headed down to San Antonio. So your spirits were high. Of course, I enjoy this as well. An additional guaranteed year through the 2027 season with an option for 2028. Guilherme said after spending a year with Austin FC, it is clear to me that this is where I want to be. I'm excited to extend my contract and to keep giving my all for this amazing city and fan base. So again, overall, I know you are thrilled with this. But any other takeaways here from signing Guilherme Biro, right? We're putting him into that kind of first core window with the guys we signed in the summer, 2027 with the 28 option.
Yeah, that's the thing that catches my eye the most. It's clear that we want him to be a long-term plan for us, and he wants to be a long-time participant here in Austin. So I'm incredibly excited about that, and it was very, very well-deserved.
Yeah, so you can see if you go over to the roster sheets here at thenorthendpodcast.com and you click on the year-by-year depth chart here with the salaries. Now, for that 2027 season, Austin has committed just under $4 million of salary cap space. Of course, the two DPs there up front. Then Osman Bukhari on the wing. You will have Sabovic, which we don't know his salary yet, Micah Burton, Owen Wolff, Nico Dubersarski, Guilherme Biro, Mikkel Dessler, and Alexander Svatok. And again, things will change. Further context will be provided on this core group, but having these guys right now, right on the cusp of the 2025 season, it feels so good to have this core locked in for 3+ years.
Absolutely incredible. You read my mind there, because I keep saying that this is a win now team, and it is, but both these things can be true where we're a win now club. And when you look at what this roster is going to look like down the road, it's also incredibly encouraging. Plenty of stuff can change. I'm saying on paper right now, yes, this looks like the long-term success that we were promised from Roto when he got here. So, I mean, there's just no other. I mean, we've said it all off season after all these names came in here, A+ all around. The front office, Roto, Tony for shelling out this money. Everything is coming together. It looks absolutely beautiful on paper, and I can't wait to see it in person.
Yeah, I second that. So Guilherme Biro extends his contract, and we know, or at least we think we know, that Rodolfo Borrell is not quite done this window. Doesn't seem like we have too many, or really any at all, big rumors to discuss this week for the first time in what feels like months. But we are continuing to get the information trickling out of the league office and U.S. Soccer. And specifically this week on Tuesday, we got the announcement here from the league that all 30 MLS clubs will participate in these North American Cup competitions. So let's kind of skip the press release here and just go to the graphic that the league put out here. So here are the cups across the country this coming season. Of course, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which renamed from CONCACAF Champions League. If you aren't familiar with that, that is, of course, the competition where Violette upset Austin FC. Then Leagues Cup in its new format here. Open Cup with another revised format. And then, of course, the 3 Canadian MLS sides taking part in the Canadian Championship. And you can see on the screen, Austin FC pops up in the U.S. Open Cup field here. And so didn't quite qualify for the Leagues Cup. You know, we've discussed this, I won't say at length, but it has popped up on the pod over the last couple weeks. I am not so disappointed in this. I know you favor the Leagues Cup over the Open Cup, maybe just for the opponent and the strength of the opponent that you get to see from the Liga MX sides coming up north of the border here. But I will tell you, man, I think looking at this format, and Austin FC will enter the tournament in the round of 32, and we are confirmed to host. And so that roundy, we will host that round of 32 match against a lower division side on either May 6th or May 7th at Q2 Stadium. And that match will be included in the season ticket holder packages this year. So we know we're getting at least that one game, and we know it's going to be against a lower division team. 5 wins away from a U.S. Open Cup championship here, and only, 16 MLS sides in the field? Especially because a lot of these teams are coming from the bottom end of the MLS table last year. Couple exceptions in there, right? You've got the Eastern Conference champion, New York Red Bulls. You've got NYCFC, who don't look great on paper right now, but we know how quickly they can retool with the assets that they have, the City Football Group, the arsenal of assets that they have available to them, Orlando City and the like. We can continue to go through this field, but my first thought is not that Austin FC is going to win the Open Cup, but I think we have a pretty good shot. And the only other argument I think that I'll even entertain about us being closer to winning some sort of hard hardware that's not Copa Tejas was, of course, the MLS playoffs, right? Back in 2022, where you were 4 wins away from a cup. We're playing against the lower division side. We should win that match. Cup sets happen all the time, so it's not a guarantee. But you're going to have to beat a maximum of 4 MLS teams to win Open Cup. So, like, it's almost like starting in the first round of the playoffs with not a postseason type of field in terms of the opponents. So I'm just very excited at the possibility that we could make a significant run in the Open Cup, because the runway, right? Just 5 wins, one of them against a lower division team. They can do this. So again, am I getting too far out over my skis here?
No, of course they could do this. Like, I agree with all the points you made there. The quality of opponent or lack thereof, plus the fact that you are going to get those next pro teams in there as well. So it's just like, I don't see how you couldn't feel like this team, given all that's happened, how we feel about this club right now, would have a very real chance to go ahead and get this hardware. I'm right there with you. And I think I can be, disappointed about the fact that we're not in Leagues Cup because of the points you made. Like, and it kind of got framed there for me even better. It was like, well, if we're in Leagues Cup, you have the potential to play like a Liga MX team who's, you could get a storied franchise like we did with Pumas and Monterrey there.
Right.
So like, and then being like, okay, our first round matchup could be a next pro club from MLS and the cup. Like, I understand how that's very advantageous towards winning it, but at the same time, I don't get overly excited about going and seeing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same feel for me, but I do think we have a real shot here.
Well, can I entice you with the possibility that our round of 32 matchup at Q2 Stadium this time could be against San Antonio FC? That's what I want. Give it to me.
Okay.
Bring us San Antonio, Harry.
Yes, I would be very excited about that.
So again, we have until May or a few weeks before that first week of May home date where we will know our round of 32 opponent. And again, we will talk more about the Open Cup when the time comes, but this is something that I'm very much looking forward to. And again, like I made the point, I think on last week's episode, that the not participating in the Leagues Cup helps us with potential schedule congestion down the stretch. If we make a run in the Open Cup, those final 2 or 3 rounds will be in the latter stages of the regular season. Yep. But still, if we get to that point, I think I'll be fine with having a midweek game or 2 added for a potential Open Cup run. So anything else for you here on the Open Cup? Again, we not in the Leagues Cup. So if you want to go look up the Leagues Cup format and how that's going to work, you can do so, of course, just by going to the league site and finding that press release. But Austin FC just dealing with the Open Cup this year. And again, I think that's a very good thing as we continue to build this club into a more consistent threat where we can handle more than just this one cup.
Agreed.
So we had a preseason match on Saturday. It was out there at Q2 against Louisville City. And so I think we just go ahead and we do this now.
The best keeper in the world.
As we expected, Damian Las is sent back out on loan to Louisville City for the 2025 season. So just like last year, Louisville comes here just so we don't have to pay for Damian's flight, I guess, right? We wait until they show up at Q2, and then we send him to the visiting locker room. You can see Roto in the press release quoted as saying Damian gained valuable experience with Louisville last year as a starter on one of the best teams in the USL Championship, getting competitive minutes every week. Once again, this season will continue to help his growth and development as a young goalkeeper. And I don't think I have anything else to add on to that. We thought this was coming. It comes to pass. And I still maintain that if he's going to go anywhere, putting him with Louisville, continuing to win, right? This is a guy who, if you think about it, 2 years ago wins MLS Next Pro Cup, right? Then wins I forget what it's not Supporter Shield. Maybe it's the Players Shield in US, but regular season champions, right? We're Louisville. So Damian kind of going for a three-peat here in terms of looking for hardware. And I'm sure after getting upset in the postseason in 2024, that Louisville has their sights set on doing the double here, winning the regular season and the USL Cup. So I am glad to see this because we know, barring some sort of catastrophic injuries or issues with Brad and Stefan, that Damian was just not in line for big minutes this year. So whether or not he becomes the first team keeper somewhere down the road, like, this is the right move at the moment. And again, just like last year, they can recall him at any time if something crazy does happen.
Look, I'm glad and I'm happy for Damian. Like you said, I think they have some unfinished business there in Louisville. There's just not going to be time for him here, and he has to develop more. We were having a conversation. I can't remember what we were doing when we were talking about, the players that have come in for Austin here, and who was going to have a big season or some type of season that was really going to leave us very, very impressed. And I think this is a really big year for Bradley Scott Stewart. I think if you look at the way that we anticipate this team to play, we are going to create a lot more opportunities, but I also think we're going to be giving up a lot more opportunities to the opposing team. And if you looked at how the team played last year as well, something that was caked into our entire formula, our entire strategy, was to live with shots from deep, have plenty of guys ready to go and block shots, and allow Bradley Scott Stewart to try to save the day for us. I think now when you look at what we're looking at for this upcoming season and what we anticipate, I think the attempts he's going to be facing are much more clean looks than he had last year, as well as potentially more important saves. There's going to be times where the game's really on the line, I feel like, and they're going to get some clean looks on us just because we're going to be countering more, which is going to leave us susceptible to be countered. So I think this is a big year for Brad. We saw the counting stats last year. We saw the fact that he didn't get the national recognition that he really deserved in regard to being one of the top keepers in MLS. So I think this is an opportunity for him to really put a stamp on it. And there's just no way Damian could get any minutes from Brad. Unless it was in some, a cup game where we're out of it or what have you, or I don't know, but there's just no opportunity here for Damian. So he's got to go ahead and get that time. So I'm excited for both Brad and Damian in this situation. And I don't want that to come off any sort of negative connotation where it's oh, this is a prove it year for Brad. I just think he's going to be facing some really clean looks that he didn't necessarily get last year because of the way that we played, wanting to muck up the game as much as possible. So I'm excited for him, excited for Damian here, and I hope that Louisville has another successful season.
So we are, I think, having some audio and or video issues here, E. I don't know if it's me or it's you. Let's push through, and hopefully everybody can forgive us if those are coming through. While you were finishing up talking about Damian and Brad there, some news just came across from Glenn Davis, right? And Glenn Davis is out there in Houston, mostly covering the Houston Dynamo. He says Josh Wolff will join the staff of the Houston Dynamo. So, yeah, thoughts there? I mean,
what?
Just yeah.
Do we know what type of?
No, this is all. He said former Austin FC head coach Josh Wolff will join the staff of Houston Dynamo, and then tagged a bunch of Austin and Houston outlets or supporters groups there. So,
oh my God.
And forgive me for not having the vocabulary to go anywhere else with this, but the incestuous nature of the three Texas teams and their coaching staffs over the last calendar year is incredible.
Nuts.
It's incredible that Nico Estevez is now the head coach at Austin. Davey stayed. Rodrigo Rios went up to Dallas, and now Josh Wolff is with his buddy Ben Olsen, coaching in the same stadium where he was giving him shit after the game last year and talking about, that's right, what's my record against Houston. So breaking news here, not on the live stream, but live recording here in the North End. Josh Wolff reportedly going to join the coaching staff in Houston. And this makes me think, we're going to break into some of the academy talk right now, E. This is what I hate the most about this. We got news that Gavin Wolff, or Gavin himself, posted on his social media that he was done with Austin FC's academy. Mm-hmm. Is Gavin Wolff going to fucking Houston too? Probably.
Yes.
And I hate that.
Yes.
Fuck that. Josh, whatever. Come on.
This is fantastic. This just adds so much more nuance and sauce to this rivalry. I absolutely love it.
Yes.
I love it. This is fantastic. This is so good for Copa Tejas. This is so good for our rivalry with Houston. This is absolutely fantastic.
That's incredible.
We might have to sit on the other side of the stadium when they come to the queue, just to see what's being hurled down there at the bench. Oh my God, that is absolutely insane.
All right, so getting into the preseason match from Saturday. Actually, because of who scores the first goal here for Austin E, I want to bring this up, and also because it was just a little bit spicy. We had, I believe on Tuesday morning, may have been Wednesday, Brendan Heinzike posts this highlight from practice to his Instagram story, and I just went it's a little bit saucy, and there's no sound, so I'm going to talk over this, but a little 3-on-2 drill here that the team's doing. You see Heinzike here take the ball, I think Leo Väisänen defending him, kind of all the way around the horn there, and then zoop, and then chips Cleveland to score. And what I think gets me, I want to play this one more time here, E. Watch the players on both ends and the coaches. Everybody freaks out. And so again, to me as not a soccer guy, I probably wouldn't see that move. Boom. I wouldn't see that move and go crazy. I would a crazy dunk or a big crossover that puts somebody on their ass on a basketball court. But the reactions tell me that is exactly what this was. So even from the bird's eye view here, kind of the all 22, as it were, zoop right there. I mean,
did he meg him?
I think so.
He megged him. Yeah.
It looks like it, and that just saucy from Heinzike there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was a fun little clip to see.
So again, you can go to any of our socials and check that out for yourself if you want to see it more up close and personal. And like I said, I talk about that because our first 11, or the 11 in the first half, rather, because we know these preseason games, you're usually going to get the full line change after the first 45. Started out against Louisville on Saturday. Stuver in net, backline of Kolmanich, Heinzike, Väisänen, and Riley Thomas. Then you also had Irvin Torres, Owen Wolff, Diego Rubio, Jader Obrian, Brandon Vasquez, and Diego Abarca, who I think is notable because I don't think we have seen him get time with the first team in a preseason or a scrimmage type of setting. I think I've seen one picture of him this preseason in training with the first team. So that I think was notable and something to watch going forward, because if we're adding somebody like Diego Abarca to the rotation of Austin FC2 players that we're mixing in with the first team, I think, again, I don't think it's foolish to take that as a positive sign for a player like Abarca, who is young. I think he is 19 when we signed him last year, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I was just about to look him up. I agree. Yes, I think that there's something to read into that. But again, we don't take too much. I don't pay too much value into these preseason lineups, particularly right now. We don't know who's in shape, who's getting over here and stuff like that. So
for sure, yeah. But and there's also a limited FCTO roster right now, right? It's like 12 guys that are officially signed. So getting into these games, and it was nice of the club to provide the updates. They've got all the highlights of the 3 goals that Austin ends up scoring. So mentioning Brendan Heinzike, here's, it's not the best angle here when you've just got members of the social team down on the sidelines trying to catch all the action on their phones. But you see off the corner kick here is the first goal. Brendan Heinzike sneaks it in. Looks like a nice little dummy there by Rubio not to touch the ball as it's going in. I think he was onside, but just in case, doesn't affect the play there. So Austin goes up 1-0. And then right before the half, we get Diego Rubio himself getting on the board here in a slightly longer clip. You see Diego making the run in there, gets the ball from, looks like Jader Obrian, pulls it across his body, and forces the own goal there. So looks like he was maybe trying to find a teammate on the back end there. We can pause it. Looks like that may have been Brandon Vasquez. That may have been Diego Abarca. Kind of tough to tell. He's so big, I think that's Vasquez. But,
yeah, that's a big player.
But so it took the 2-0 lead into the half. And then, of course, we get a different 11 coming out here in the second half. Steph Cleveland in net, because now we've only got 2 keepers that we can put in there. No more Damian in the preseason. Backline of Biro, Cascante, Svatak, and Gallagher. And I think these 2 backline rotations that we've seen are pretty similar across the open training, the 2 games out there in Florida and now at home against Louisville, where I think we've seen Biro and Galley paired together, and we've seen Kolmanich and Thomas paired together, or Kolmanich and Dessler. And Dessler got the day off here, did not appear against Louisville. So in front of that back line, we had Ilie, Danny, Micah, CJ, Buka, and then Patrick Gashevsky got out there in the second half. So it was nice to see him get out there. And Austin actually does concede to Louisville in the 63rd minute. I did not see if Louisville posted that goal to their socials or not. Austin, of course, did not, just gave us the notification that it happened. 85th minute, we do get Antonio Gomez in for Pat Grzeszewski. And I'm still waiting on the official pronunciation of Pat's last name from the club. So I've settled on Grzeszewski for now, E. So I was wondering, are we up 2-1 in this scenario? Extra defender coming on in Tony Gomez. Are we, was that a change made to try to preserve the 2-1 lead? I'm just speculating because we couldn't see the match, but I would be interested to know because I want to know the little minute details like that. Were we moving more defensive to try to preserve the 2-1 lead, or was that, did Pat turn an ankle and we needed a sub or what have you? That's context that we'll get from the next 2 preseason matches out there in Coachella when they're streamed. But the minute after we make that substitution, we do get a 3rd goal here. So we've got an angle, Osman Bukhari on the counterattack here, on the break, and mixes his defender, rattles the shot off the post there, and then Danny Pereira there to clean it up, put it home. 3-1 victory for Austin FC here in the preseason. So again, like we said last week, you don't put really any stock into these preseason matches because we're not going to see these lineups unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong with the season. But if we're going to roll the ball out there and play, we'd rather see our guys come out on top rather than drop a bunch of these preseason matches. But I hearken back to what Coach Estevez said last week, and I think our buddy Phil West led off his one of his columns this past week, where Coach said, preseason is a liar. And I tend to agree.
Oh, that's a good quote. I like that one.
Yeah.
I think your 5-back thing makes some sense there, right? You're going to be practicing situational soccer in types of games like this. So like that would be a tactic that I would assume would very much be on the table depending on the opponent you're playing. If you're up 2-1 in a situation, you're trying to get the dub. So that makes sense to me. Happy that everyone, got out of there healthy. Liked that decisiveness from Buka, because like watching that clip initially, I was like, oh yeah, I saw him mix like a shitload of people last year, but it looked like once he got it on his right foot there, he was ready to let that go. So I like that decisiveness. And again, glad everyone's healthy, not looking into this too deeply.
Yeah. So again, I will look into things a little bit more deeply for these next 2 matches, like I mentioned, because the team is going out to Coachella this week. They've got 3 matches on tap. The first 2 are scheduled to be live streamed. Galaxy, defending MLS Cup champions, on Wednesday, out there in their neck of the woods, and then Saturday against St. Louis City. So in terms of expectations, and again, we don't want to have too many, but what I'm looking forward to is as we get to preseason game now 4 and 5 out of 7, is I think we start to see some of these rotations tighten up a little bit, right? I think we start to see guys go more than 45 minutes. I think we start to see a little bit more of your first 11 and your second 11, and maybe not the full line change at halftime, because the calendar is February now. We are 20 days away from opening night against Sporting KC, who did just pick up Dejan Joveljic in a cash trade. So that makes opening night a little bit tougher there against Sporting. But I'm looking forward to seeing these guys start to get in that full game shape, because you at some point you ramp up. And to me, the time is now here starting on Wednesday.
Totally agree. There will be crumbs to be had from these games here. There'll be much more important issues to read into.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's Las Business Day.
Last business day here on episode 198 of the North End Podcast. And we have a regular season schedule. So the club releasing the Austin FC 2 2025 schedule. And you can see on the screen on the graphic, we get underway March 7th at home against Colorado Rapids 2. That match and the first handful, I think the first 3 home matches will be on Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Central. So I'm not sure why. Maybe weather, but it should be beautiful weather in March, like 5:30 on a Friday. I don't know. I think I speak for a handful, at least, of Austin FC fans where like it's tough to get out to Parmer at 5:30 on a Friday. We move into the summer and most of them become 7:30 p.m. start times, at least for those home matches here. But that is just one kind of schedule quirk that stuck out to me at first glance. We also, of course, in MLS Next Pro, there are 2 conferences, but those conferences are split into 2 divisions each. So we have 4 divisions in MLS Next Pro, and that's why this schedule is imbalanced. You'll see, I believe, 3 matchups against Houston Dynamo 2, a couple right North Texas, I believe we have 3 matchups there again. So you get the extended Copita Tejas schedule there, and the other, I forget the division name that Austin FC 2 is actually in. But you see Rapids, right, are in our division. You get 3 games against Rapids 2. So it's, a season coming up, 14 home, 14 away, hoping to build on the late season surge that this team had last year. We also, the last thing I will note here, we have, I believe, 5 occasions this year, which I think is the most we've had since Austin FC 2 started playing 2 years ago. We have 5 occasions where the first team and the second team will play the same opposing club on the same weekend. So that is actually the first time that happens is opening weekend here for the second team. Rapids 2 on Friday, and then Colorado Rapids at the Q the next night. St. Louis City and St. Louis City 2, that will be away the final weekend of March. Dynamo and Dynados away at the end of April. That's the 26th and the 27th. Minnesota United and Minnesota United 2 away. That is May 23rd and 24th. And then LAFC and LAFC 2 here in Austin, July 4th and 5th. So a little Independence Day doubleheader there on July 4th and 5th against LAFC and their second team. So I always think that's kind of cool, especially if you're catching one of those away day weekends where you can go on the road and see the second team play the night before the first team or vice versa. I always think that's nice when the schedule can work out in that fashion. But this is also, this is coming up fast. It feels like this next pro regular season is maybe starting a week or 2 earlier. I didn't look this up, but it feels like this is a little bit of an earlier start here. We're just over a month away from that opening match at Parmer Field.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's always nice to get up to the pitch for some of these games. And if you're going to an away game and you're catching the next pro game, you're just upgrading that sicko status quite a bit. So I salute that for sure. I do like, we talked about the imbalance that happens in MLS that happened last year with Houston and Dallas and stuff like that. I do like it a little more here. I can't really tell you why, but I do. I think it adds to the rivalry here. I think it gives these matchups a little more spice. I like it at this level. So I'm excited for these boys. And we know a lot's going to change with this roster too, because like you mentioned here, it's going to be pretty quick where we're going to be at the pitch watching these guys go at it and everything. So it's an exciting time for Austin FC too. It's just hard to get like my head wrapped around what to expect from any team in Next Pro. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I have no idea who's going to be on their team, what they've got, what they're trying to do, so like, it's just hard to get to this point, but it's fun because you open it up the first day and everything. And like, then you're rolling. Yep.
And like, to your point about, we don't really know who's going to be on the team yet. It feels like the team is about half full right now in terms of the official, like, announced, the players who are under contract. But I will, like, if you want to go do some crumb digging of your own, We Are Austin TV from last weekend's match actually got their hands on some photos from the game against San Antonio City. And there are a lot of new unfamiliar faces wearing that Austin FC2 kit last weekend. So we are going to have a flurry of announcements over the next 4 weeks at some point. So I'm looking forward to that. And like speaking about that preseason schedule, we mentioned on last week's episode that they won 8-0, or I think it was maybe 8-1 against San Antonio City. They played Houston Christian University yesterday on February 1st. I have not seen any updates about that. And that is how, if I recall correctly, that's how the preseason went for FCTO last year too, where like they played and there just really wasn't a ton about them. I think we got the San Antonio scores because there were people on the San Antonio side of that game and putting some info out there about it. But you can go try to identify some of those players that were out there for FCTO last weekend. If you go check out our buddies over there at We Are Austin TV on their Instagram, they had that posted. But we'll keep looking for crumbs ourselves as well. But things really starting to heat up with the second team here in the preseason.
It's crazy, man. Like you said, we're in February already. It's absolutely nuts. Got to imagine that's a lot of academy kids, right?
I think there's definitely a number of academy kids that they're playing. I would think the ones that had the amateur agreements last year, but to my knowledge haven't gone off to college yet. Like I think Luke Spadafora comes to mind as a name there. Gavin Wolff would have been one. Spencer Sanderson's off at college. There's, I think you're spot on there where we're going to see some academy guys either get contracts with the second team or sign amateur agreements. And then we're going to have a couple other professionals come in and get signed, young guys, right? But most of them probably between like 19 and 22 years old. But and some of those guys, again, I think not all the unfamiliar faces are academy guys, right? I think we probably have some FC2 trialists there as well. So again, more preseason mysteries, and we like that. So I mentioned Gavin Wolff, right, announces his departure. So to me, that was by far the biggest academy news of the week, where we know that Vigo Ortiz, right, now with Charleston, and there was we made a pretty big deal about that in the middle of last season when he all of a sudden just up and left. We know Brian Ariano, right? Different age profile than a Wolf or an Ortiz, but a guy who came up through the Austin FC Academy system, played with the second team, and now is no longer here. So adding Gavin Wolff to this list, I think he and Ortiz are in a different tier of prospect than a guy like Brian Ariano, but it's not a good thing that Gavin Wolff is no longer with our academy, and it's even worse if he's going to be with Houston.
I totally agree. It sucks.
So we had a couple updates because the academy, of course, rolled on with their regular season games. I believe they played Saturday and Sunday, took on Colorado Rapids Academy on Saturday, the U13s, with a 2-1 victory. So they continue to roll. Not quite right there. Not beating the opponent this weekend by 6 or 7 or whatever they've been doing, but taking care of business there. U14s take a 4-1 loss here. A lot of injuries from the source giving us updates on this game. One key player out on a red card suspension, and then we also had a younger player playing up. So not the most advantageous situation for the U14 boys, and the Rapids team, their side takes advantage. 3 U13s apparently played the majority of that game. Then today, U13s and 14s played Real Colorado. And U19s also played. They win 2-1. U16s out there as well. They win 4-0. U14s, I imagine, still dealing with the injuries and the younger players on their side. They take a 3-2 loss. Oh, and here's the last note here for the U14 games. Red card for Austin early in the second half. So seems like a tough weekend for the U14s, but overall a victorious weekend for the academy out there in Colorado. So overall, keep it up, boys, and 14s. Got to get healthy.
Soccer in Colorado in February must be rough.
Sounds brutal. And that's coming from me with the thin Texas blood. And whenever it's below 50 degrees, I'm dying. So yeah, I mean and not even the time of year, just going to play in Colorado at any point in the elevation is a tall task. So there's your academy update here. Again, apologies for any audio or video issues that we experienced during the middle of the episode. We paused a few times trying to fix things. So we did our best here. and a little bit of a shorter episode here. I expect to get back to our regularly, the length of our regular episodes next week with 2 live streamed games for us to view, take in, maybe record some highlights, talk about different things. So like this feels like, to me, and you can tell me if you think I'm off base here, this feels like the final episode where it's like the calm before the storm.
Okay.
Because next weekend we're recapping games we have our eyes on. The episode after that, number 1's episode 200 coming up. But we're previewing a first team regular season match in 2 weeks. Can't wait. Super excited and appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us here today on episode 198 through the sickness, the audio issues, and all of that. Anything else for you before we sign off here on Sunday?
Very excited. Ready to roll.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here. We will be back next Sunday recapping the 2 Austin FC preseason matches out there in Coachella and talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. And of course, if green smoke pops up, the live stream will hit your feed. So pay attention to all that. Enjoy your week, everybody. We will do the same. We'll see you back here next Sunday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.